Welcome to FTB Fridays for Friday, the 14th of May, 2021. I am, of course, your host, Jason C. McLean. We're actually recording this, case it matters, Thursday evening around 7:02 p.m. Now, since the pandemic started, people's lives, what people do has been drastically affected. But there are some areas that possibly haven't been this drastically affected, or actually might be a really good thing to do during these pandemic times. One such activity, which is for some a passion, others a way of life, for some a hobby, is birding. And we are joined by author and birder Matt Pohl. Welcome.
Howdy.
Howdy. How's it going?
Just living the dream. I'm a little tired because it is mid-May, which is kind of the high holy holidays for birders. It's my spring migration. So I've been hitting it pretty hard these days.
Okay, well, first of all, let's go with this birding. I always knew it as bird watching. Is there actually a difference between birding and bird watching?
Sort of. It depends who you ask. It's partly like bird watching, I guess, is a little more dated, but I think these days bird watching to a bird watcher is kind of less serious, just someone maybe who looks at their bird feeder and goes, oh, I saw a cardinal, did you
Yeah.
see the eagles? But a birder is more like a little more interested in like kind of making lists, kind of the Pokemon Go, gotta catch them all, a little more competitive, a little more serious, maybe involved in conservation on the side, so a little more involved, but it's kind of it's just an overlap. It's
It's
really
more
the
of
same thing, but I call myself a birder.
a birder is more of a way of life or a passion than a hobby.
Yeah, it's a calling.
Is it calling? Since how long have you been a birder?
Oh man, I've been a birder since I was about 6 or 7 actually. I've got pictures, pretty funny pictures of me with like broken binoculars on birding trips back in the 80s and stuff. So I used to go with my friend Dan a lot, who and his parents and my parents, and then I stopped for a long time, and then I moved to Korea maybe 15 years ago, and then I kind of picked it back up again in Korea because I was seeing birds I didn't know, so it kind of got me hooked on birding there, and then I got much more serious when I was there.
Yeah. So, like, what is the typical, I guess, day or week of a birder? Like, what do you do?
Well, right now, you kind of at night, all the birders are hunched over their computer at 2 a.m. looking at the radar because there's migration. There's Doppler radar where you can actually see the birds migrating. So, some nights birders don't know what they're going to do the next day until they see the radar, and then everybody's sending each other messages at 2 a.m. Oh my gosh, look at the radar. We got to get out no matter what. So right now, birders, like I said, it's the high holy holidays for birders. So everybody is birding. That's what everybody's doing right now. But I guess in quiet times, kind of midsummer and winter, maybe you're reading field guides. Maybe I don't know, doing normal things.
When you go out, though,
But for me personally, I'm always thinking about birds, and I'm writing about birds, and everything is birds to me. So
yeah,
I'm maybe not the best one to ask because everything is birds for me.
everything is bird. But when you go out, is it just is it taking pictures? Is it seeing them through a binocular? Or is it either or is it?
Yeah, I mean it's both. Like I take pictures of birds, but I mean for me it's about the binoculars. I would recommend that people starting out in birding get binoculars first. I mean, a lot of people, you see them, they just have the camera and they're kind of looking through. It's not the best way to bird if you just have a camera. Like you can get Bushnells at Canadian Tire for 60-70 bucks or whatever. You can get Vortex are pretty cheap. So I would recommend get binoculars first. Learn how to get on the birds. Like get a camera later. Like cameras are fun, but for me, it's one aspect of birding. It's like 10% of birding for me is photography, but learn how to get on a bird and identify a bird and get a field guide, a book,
Yeah.
and stay away from the tech. Like this is the sacred texts, the Sibley. Everyone has their own favorite, but now everybody's into the tech. There's people have playback on their phones, which is terrible for the birds because it's like when a bird's song is I'm gonna kill you. That's what
Yeah.
they're telling other birds. So people photographers will do playback and try to get birds out. which is terrible for the birds because it can get a bird off the nest, or it can make a bird abandon its nest. There's a Merlin ID app where you take a picture of a bird and then you plug it into this thing and it tells you what it thinks it is. And I think that's all crap.
You should know
just
what the bird is. You should
Get a
know.
book. Yeah, get a book. Learn how. Just flip through the book. Carry the book with you at all times and figure it out. So you don't have to ask a computer.
Is there an active? I mean, there's a very active birder community. How many are in Montreal? Is there a big community here, or?
Yeah, there's lots. There's loads. Especially, I think in COVID times. Maybe you'll ask me that later.
Yeah,
but
that's what we're getting into, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, there. I've noticed more out. There's loads. I mean, in all the spots in Montreal, all the patches, as we call them, especially this time of year, it's crowded. There's a lot of. I don't know. I don't know if I could guess, but sometimes you'll see on eBird, which is another sort of. It's a way to log your bird sightings online.
Yeah.
You'll see if there's a rare bird that shows up, you'll see 50 eBird lists, which to me means 100 birders showed up that day. So,
wow,
there's a lot of birders. There's hundreds, thousands. I don't know.
I live near the old children's.
There's an army of it.
Yeah, I live near the old children's hospital. When Pokemon Go first came out, I remember seeing people. You mentioned Pokemon Go. I remember seeing hundreds of people running this and that. So I imagine it's something similar to that. But since the pandemic started, has it I mean, obviously maybe more people are interested in this because it's the kind of activity you can do outdoors, but there's also a lot more people outdoors in general. Has that affected birding?
Yeah, briefly for me personally, last spring, I was still paranoid and I didn't go out at all last spring, which was pretty sad. I'm out more now this spring, obviously. But it's affected in a few ways. There's a lot of the sites, a lot of the parks have restrictions because of COVID, as far as like one way, a lot of the paths are one way, or some stuff was closed down early on in the pandemic. A lot of the spots were closed down. Mount Royal Cemetery was closed, one of my favorite patches, and a lot of places were closed. And there's still restrictions on places. I don't know, I'm trying to remember your exact question, but also I have noticed a lot of sort of COVID birders, birders that are very new to birding. And yeah, that's a great thing. So it's often fun to sort of help people out on the trail, identify stuff, and you can sort of spot people that are very new to birding. And yeah, it's always a good thing to see. It's better than playing Pokemon Go. It keeps people off the streets.
It's an open community. It's not something like you want to keep it an exclusive club. You want to encourage more people to do it.
Yeah,
or you do.
Well, yeah, for the most part, yeah. I mean, there are competitive people. There are records that have to be suppressed, like owls and nesting birds and sensitive birds. Like, so there are secrets in birding.
Yeah.
And there are, secret arch enemies and stuff. But for the most part, yeah, it's very welcoming, very open, very friendly. I find the only problem sometimes is those photographers where they don't have binoculars, and you get a whole clot of these guys and they show up everywhere and they have big lenses and they have bad manners and they do playback. If there's a rare owl, they'll shake the tree so the owl opens its eyes. Or there's even guys that up north in the winter, they'll have people from Europe. Well, maybe not this winter, but they'll have like a pillowcase of mice, and they'll have these rich people from Europe come and they'll throw mice on the snow, and just to get all pictures of owls swooping at the camera. So if you ever see a picture of an owl swooping straight towards the camera, it was probably it was baited.
It's cheating. We call it cheating.
It is. I guess they'd call them assholes.
That's a good way to put it.
Baiting the owls. There are a lot of terms in birding. That could be a whole other segment.
We're gonna take a look at some of the I'd actually asked you for some photos, so let's actually take a look here. Now this guy over here, who's this little guy over here?
Oh yes, I saw him yesterday. That is a male pine warbler. Right now, warblers are kind of I call them, I don't know, sky candy or tree candy. I think sky candy was from The Simpsons. I don't know, tree candy. There's 15 to 20 species of warblers that are moving through in the next couple of weeks, and most of them are yellow and bright and small, and they're way up high in the tree. And it's kind of they're just an intoxicating little family of birds, because you just see like these just shimmering through the trees, all these little yellow things, and when you get your binoculars on them, they're all so very different. So this is a pine warbler, a male, and the female is actually totally gray. But I saw this guy yesterday on Mont Saint Bruno. It's a
Oh, wow.
lovely species.
And this is also a warbler?
This is another warbler. This is a palm warbler. Like the pine warbler, they're one of the early ones that move through. I saw this guy on Ile Saint Bernard a couple days ago. Yeah, they're moving through quite a bit lately as well.
Okay, and we have this one.
And that's another early warbler. It's a yellow rumped warbler, but people call them butterbutts. And right now, this is, I mean, maybe 80% of the warblers right now are butterbutts, are yellow rump warblers. So you kind of have to sift through and find something else. But this is a lovely male with yellow shoulders or armpits or whatever.
So warblers, now for people who want to like get involved, I'm going to obviously mention your book. There's and your book, people get through your blog. On your blog, do you tell people how to, like, where are the spots to go to first? Do you give advice or?
Yeah, well, I on my blog, I have labels on the bottom of every post. So for instance, I went to Mont Saint Bruno yesterday, and on the bottom, there's a Mont Saint Bruno tag, and you can click and see all my trips that I've taken to Mont Saint Bruno. I try to be specific when there's a location. Like for instance, Margaret Duville, Ile Saint Bernard, 2 or 3 days ago, I found a yellow-throated vireo, which is quite rare. And I gave pretty specific instructions on where I found it. And there's also, we message each other, little communities of birders, and we sort of say, where was it? And everybody will call. If a rare bird shows up, or you'll see 15 people the next morning.
So your blog may be a good starting point for somebody who wants to take up birding and wants to know where some of the locations are.
Yeah, could be.
They can also get your book, right? You have how many books now? You have 1 book or 2 books?
It's more of a pamphlet. It's quite small, but I guess you could call it a book. That's the Christmas Bird Diary. It's kind of like a cozy mystery set in Montreal in like the early 1960s. And yeah, you can find that on my blog, and for everyone I sell, I get like 30 cents. So that's been very lucrative for me.
And what is your the lucrative life of a birder? What is your blog? Where can people find it?
It's called Snowy Owl Lost. So you could Google it, one word.
We'll put a link in the description of the video. Snowy Owl Lost. Okay.
Yeah, and it's got like a lot of Canadian bird ventures, but also a lot of Korean stuff. I was in Korea for many years, so there's a lot of Korean stuff on there too, and a lot of links to my short stories that I've had published. They're all about birds. Yeah.
Birder through and through. Well, I mean, you can. So that's how you can. The people can follow your blog and get your books and maybe get involved with birding. And people can follow me personally at Jason C. McLean. And Matt, I want to thank you very much for being our guest this week on FTB Fridays. You can also follow, give us this video a like, a share, and subscribe to us on YouTube. Like and share and follow us on Facebook. Follow at Forget the Box on Twitter. You can also download the Android app. The iOS one is coming soon. And for daily content, of course, always check out forgetthebox.net. We'll catch you next week for another FTB Fridays.